Welcome to Business is Good, the podcast all about what it means to be in business in the 21st century. Small and medium-sized businesses are the lifeblood of the UK economy, and globally they can and will have a huge impact on society, the economy and how we live our lives. From technology disruption to reworking a solution to solve the world's biggest problem, Business is Good is a podcast about what it takes to be successful and how every business defines that in different ways. Business is no longer just about being defined by what you do, but it's about giving back and redefining the problems and how we solve them in a way that works for you. I'm your host, Caroline Sumners, and I'll be giving you weekly inspirational stories from business owners who are building business and solving problems. In this episode, I'm talking to a very good friend and founder of Unlocking Potential, Gethin Jones. I've known Gethin a couple of years now, and he honestly is one of the most truly inspirational and motivational people that I've ever met. He's got a truly fascinating story that shows you that no matter what circumstances you come from, how you approach it and the emotional intelligence that you apply to your life, if you can make the decision to change, then anything is possible.
So who am I and what do I do? So I'm an inspirational speaker, trainer and coach, but I'm mainly now specifying working within prisons, charities and local authorities. And I train up and develop staff members, so anybody working within the public sector, prison social workers, support workers, about how they can create meaningful human relationships for the men, women or children they're supporting. Because what we kind of know is that fundamentally anybody within that system has been let down at some point by the system. Yeah. Whenever they meet a prison officer or another professional, they don't see the person, they just see the title or the uniform or the keys. And what I always say is that it's not the system that rehabilitates, it's individuals that work within that. And we do that by creating meaningful human-to-human relationships. And for that to happen, we need to get people to see the person behind the uniform, title or professional role. So that's what I do in that area. But I'll do lots more as well.
Yeah, okay. So that makes sense. But how do you go about doing that? Because that's a bold statement. We get them to see the person behind it. But how does that work? How do you even start to do that?
So I think it's within any business, isn't it? You kind of don't really know what your true skill or ability is until you start to kind of go through the journey of what it is that you're doing. So what's happened is through the process is I had no intention of working within the prison or public sector. I had no intention of that.
So you just it just happened.
It just happened, yeah. So what happened, I remember so I was just kind of networking, I was networking. I was in London. I went to this event in London and I met this lady called Annie Fox, and she was the CEO of a charity called Clinks. And I just told her a little bit about me and what it is I do, blah, blah, blah. And at that time, it was just being a professional, inspirational speaker. Yeah, I just want to be this inspirational speaker. And she said, you need to kind of have a little chat with this other lady called Natasha Porter. And she had a program called Unlock Graduates. They're now a retained customer, by the way. I'm going to see them again tomorrow, which will be my third year in a row. But anyway, so I went off to do this presentation there. And when I'd done the presentation, I was approached afterwards by this bloke called Paul Baker. And Paul Baker was what's called a prison group director. And he oversaw all of the prisons in the Thames Valley area. And then he's just turned around to me, he'd gone, Gethin, he said, I need you in every single one of my prisons. And then he said to me, he went, have you ever heard of the OMIC model? And OMIC is offender management in custody. And also they got another strategy called the rehab culture. And I went, no, I've never heard of them. He said, everything you've just spoken about is what they are all about. Yeah, so intuitively, I was fixing the problem. Yeah, but I didn't even know it. And then somebody heard me and said, you are the solution to all of our problems. And then as I've kind of then gone into the prison system and I start to see more of what their problems are, and I've come out with other ideas, strategies and interventions, I've just said, yeah, we need you to do that. Yeah, we need you to do that. And it's just snowballed.
So why did you what led you to that in the first place? Why prisons? Why? I mean, obviously I know a bit about your life, but and you can say as much or as little as you want, but what led you to even think, I'm going to give up my job?
Yeah.
my stable job in the council, and I'm going to just go out and do this. What was there a trigger point? What caused you to even sort of think like that? Because that takes a peculiar kind of thinking and person, and we've talked about this before. But what was the kind of like? Was there a turning point, or did you just sort of suddenly think, right, I'm just going to go do it?
Yeah, well, that's another story. Maybe I love a story. But I had no intention of setting up a business. If you went back like 3.5, 4 years ago, no intention. Then when I was in the council, there was this bloke who came in called Pravin, and he was been working in IBM. Yeah, and I've known Pravin for quite a few years, and he just came into Port City Council doing some part-time stuff, which was in sort of one of the information teams. Then when I was chatting to him, he was just setting up a coffee shop, social enterprise as a coffee shop. And I was kind of talking to him, and I was kind of getting an understanding of what it was he was doing. I thought, wow, that's great. I'd love to set up my own business. Yeah. And then I started to think, what kind of business would I set up? So straight away, I was like thinking, maybe I'll do a tea room, because everyone's doing coffee shops. I'll open up a tea room. And then, so I was going through this process. So what kind of business? I kind of had this urge that I needed to do something more. And then what happened was when I was at the council, I used to do some work with the alcohol services, substance misuse services. And then what happened was a pharmaceutical company got in touch with my service and asked if I'd go and do a presentation at one of their events. And I went there with another lady called Sue. They paid us like £600 to go up there to do this as well. We'd done it on an area. It was all done full. We spoke to the council. They were okay with it. But what they did, was they flew us up to Birmingham. Yeah, right. Okay. And then we went to this Hilton hotel, and we didn't just get a room. I got sort of like a corner suite. Yeah. And we also had like a VIP pass to go up and use this bar upstairs where there was all free food and drinking. And I was just like treated like a king. So I thought, wow, what? People get paid to do this sort of stuff, yeah? And then what happened was I was then sort of like an after-dinner speaker. And I was sat down listening to this after-dinner speaker. And I've got my own history. I'll tell you a little bit about it in a minute. But I've got my own history. But I remember I was listening to this fellow, and he was doing this talk. And in my head, I'm like thinking, I could do better than you. I could do better than you. But I'm also aware that the ego is quite a bad thing, yeah? So I was like thinking, yeah, you're just getting yourself at it. And then at the end of it, there was the lady, Sue, that was with me. She knew about me, and she said to me at the end, she went, Gethin, you could have done a better job than that. And that was when it happened. That was when I had that light bulb moment and realised I'm going to be a professional speaker. And then it just kind of went from there. And I believe I'm quite spiritual, so I believe everything happens as it's meant to. And literally, I went back to the council and I thought, this is what I'm going to do. Started to do some investigating, getting on LinkedIn, finding other professional speakers, seeing what it was that they did. And then what I did was I then thought I need more time to be able to do this. So I looked on sort of like the Intralink on Porter City Council, and they had a part-time job, 16 hours a week as a deputy manager in a youth club. And I come back from a youth background. And literally the money was enough money to pay my half of the mortgage, my half of the bills, and give me some spending money. But more importantly, it gave me 16 hours a week to start to develop the business idea. And then literally within 6 months, I got to a point of having that many customers that I was able to take it full time. That's it.
It's amazing. So do you just do speaking, or do you do anything else? I mean, I say just do speaking, but what's the elements of the business, and has that changed since you started it?
Yeah, so yes, it's massively changed. So I still do speaking. That's my core. So I do 2 different talks. I do talks to the staff about how they can be more meaningful and purposeful within their work. I also do talk with men, women, children, young people, whoever it is that may be struggling or stuck within their lives. I also now have training packages, and then training packages can either be for managers about how they can better support their staff teams, And then we've also got staff teams about how they can, how they can better support the clients that they're supporting. Yeah. So I do those kind of training packages. But what else has kind of happened now as well is people are now pulling me in to do more consultancy work. So there's a private company at the moment called, I won't say the name live on it because it's still in the
a private company.
A private company, but what they're doing is they're bidding for prisons within the UK. They also run some of the private probations, but they also have got prisons and stuff in America and Australia. And they're now talking to me about doing consultancy work on the training, recruitment training of the staff within their services.
Wow. So when did you start this business? I know you said you went part-time. How long has it been? Like 4 years, is it? 3 years?
No. So it's, what year are we in now?
2019.
So I went full-time January 2017. So 2017, I went full-time. So it would have been I'll just say 17, didn't I? So it would have been summer 2016 when I actually set the business up.
So pretty much 3 years.
Yeah, be 3 years full-time. Yeah, 3 years, yeah. 2.5 years part-time, 6 months full-time.
So what specifically led you to prisons, though?
So I got an interesting past. I'll just kind of do it.
High level. Yeah,
I'll give you a little 60 seconds. That's what I kind of do. So how I always say to people is like the other part of my life is I was born into the system. What I mean by that is social services were there from the day I was born. What happened was because of my life experiences, I responded negatively in my behaviour, and that set me down a path which put me into full-time care. But also as well, because of my trauma, because it's all about trauma, I responded negatively in my behaviour. But my behaviour got punished and criminalised at a very young age. I'll give a chronology of events. We love chronologies in the criminal justice system. So what I always explain to people is I was born in the care system. I was born into the care system, so social services were there from the day I was born. But I was living at home. But what happened was I responded negatively in my behaviour linked to the uncomfortability of being at home. Yeah. And then because of my behaviour, it kind of got punished and criminalised. And the chronology of events like this, I went into full-time care at 11, expelled from school at 11, first criminal conviction at 11, first custodial at 14, secure units at 14, secure units at 15, and second custodial sentence at the age of 15. And I called that the full stop of my childhood. I then ended up spending 8 years of my life behind the prison wall. I developed a dependency on heroin, spent time on the streets, and just become a very, very broken person. Until in 2006, I went through a fundamental shift, and then I ended up turning my life around. At that point, I had no qualifications and no work history. And what I did within a 7-year period, I educated myself to the equivalent of a degree and getting a leadership and management qualification. And I also went from 2 hours a week volunteering to then being a service manager within Port City Council and Public Health, overseeing a staff team of 40 to reduce health inequalities to the most deprived area of the city I grew up within.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I mean, but you say that you went through a life-changing kind of experience in 2006. Was it 2006?
2006, yeah.
What sort of prompted that, or what was the trigger point to that? Do you know? You obviously know, but...
Yes, so there's a lot of things, yeah. So they talk about rock bottoms, yeah. So I call what I had in 2000, I had what I call a physical rock bottom. Yeah, so I was in Winchester prison, just about to start a 4-year prison sentence. So I was coming off heroin, crack cocaine, alcohol, benzos. I was just a complete wreck of a man. Yeah. But what happened was that kind of prompted me to then start to look at what it was that I needed if I wanted to change. Yeah. So if anyone does any sort of spiritual stuff, there's a bloke called Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he talks about a shift. We have shifts. And it was kind of a bit of a shift. So what happened at that point, it was the first time I started to engage with any kind of support to help me. And that's one of the strap lines which I have within the system. So I will say it's not the system that rehabilitates, it's individuals that work within it. But because I was so fundamentally broken, yeah, I mistrusted everyone and everything. Yeah, so I had to sort of go to a system that I felt was my perpetrator to then get help to be fixed. which is an easy thing to do. So what happened was I went through a process in the 6 years of what I call stopping, starting. And in 2005, I probably had what I'd call a spiritual rock bottom. Yeah, spiritual rock bottom. And the reason for that was because I didn't fit in the new world. Yeah, because I just couldn't quite make them changes that I needed. But I also didn't fit in my old world. Yeah, so it became a very, very lonely place. And when I talk about spiritual rock bottom, what I always explain about is a candle. Yeah, so when you got a candle, you got a flame. Imagine that candle. Yeah, it's just about to go out. Yeah, there's only a little flicker of it left, and that was kind of me. Yeah, I was just sort of like every day I'd wake up and just didn't want to be awake, just wanted to die, couldn't live another day, blah blah blah. But then what happened is, and I've got this in my book, which is all called Unconscious Incarceration, that you can order on Amazon. Just type in Gethin Jones Unconscious Incarceration.
I'm cutting that out. Stop selling your stuff.
But I have written a book, and within the book I talk about sort of like the shift and the change. And what happened was I was walking down a road, Elm Grove in Southsea, and I bumped into a lady called Jo Purdy that's been working with me for quite a long period of time. And she literally just said to me, "Are you okay?" Me being me, just went, "Yeah, I'm right." And then she just looked at me, and she could see that I wasn't. And all she said was, "Gethin, you need to go and book yourself in somewhere." Yeah, that's all she said. But for the first time in my entire life, yeah, I heard what she said and I trusted in what she said. Now I explain it to people. It's like I had all of these pieces of the jigsaw and they all came together and it spelled one word, which was action. Yeah, and what I realised at that point was nobody was going to change me. The only person that could change me was me, but it was, or I had all of these other people around me that could help support my process.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it all kind of shifted. And what I kind of call that, and I got it from somebody else, a bloke called Steve years ago, and I heard him talk, so I always kind of give credit to other people as well. And he called it the gift of desperation. And that's what I believe. I had the gift of desperation on that day. I was so desperate, I'd rather be dead than alive. And then it happened.
I mean, that's amazing that in 13 years, you've gone from that such a desperate state that you were in to now, you know, potentially consulting with private companies on how to help them fix the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask you, what's your kind of like been your highlight of starting your business? I mean, I think you've probably got a few because I know some of the stuff that you've been doing, but yeah, can you name one real highlight or are there too many? What would you say?
See, do you know what? Right? This might sound really corny, yeah. But for me, it's about sort of like inspiring change, yeah. So I went off to an event yesterday in London, yeah. And I'm not saying this was going to do me, but I went off to this event in London, which was all to do with criminal justice. And then this fella called Mark come up to me. He's gone, "Gethin, I just want to shake your hand." And I went, "All right." He goes, "You might not remember." He goes, "But I heard you speak at Grendon." Yeah, Grendon Underwood, which is a therapeutic prison. So he's already doing some therapeutic work whilst he was there. Yeah, but then when I saw him yesterday, he's at this event, okay, and he's also now started to volunteer and do some work with a charity called the Prison Reform Trust. Yeah, and when I kind of see him doing that, yeah, that is where I'll get my biggest pleasure and pride from, yeah, because if I really truly want to create any kind of change, you have to have a momentum, yeah. So what I always talk about is like, yeah, I'm not unique. There's many, many people like me, yeah, that are doing some amazing things across the system. So, yeah, so the more people that we can kind of release from being trapped within the system, I always call it being trapped, and then they start to have impact in their own individual areas, that's when we can start to change public perception on the value of those people trapped within the system. So it might sound really corny, but that's my biggest achievement, yeah, because I can kind of think to myself, you know, he's now back with his family, he's sort of like seeing his children, do you know what I mean? He's doing good within the community, do you know, so in itself, that's the biggest reward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's amazing, considering some of the stuff I know that's happened to you and you've done in the last sort of year or so. I think that's, you know, that's your whole purpose behind your business, isn't it? So yeah, when you get stuff like that, it just makes you feel really like you're making progress.
Making progress. It's funny actually, because I kind of like I went to go into business with somebody else, yeah, and there was a little bit of something wasn't kind of quite working. Yeah, you kind of know this. We don't need to kind of explain it all, but if anybody watching, yeah, right, is look up Dr. Wayne Dyer. Yeah, and he's a spiritual teacher. Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. And he got this film called The Shift. Yeah, and it absolutely just summarises everything. So what it is he's also linked to Jungian theory. Yeah, so I do a lot of stuff around. I know a lot of stuff around theory in relation to Jung, Freud, Eric Berne, lots of other different peoples. But what Jungian theory used to say, yeah, we go through shifts within our lives, and they call it the morning and the afternoon of your life. What he talks about, he says, what was true and meaningful to you in the morning, yeah, can become a lie in the afternoon and evening of your life. Yeah, and how he kind of explained it is when you're kind of young, yeah, it's very much about ambition. Yeah, it's about profit. It's about gaining wealth and all of this sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
He said, and then what happens is sometimes with him, not everybody, but sometimes with life, yeah, you have a shift where it then becomes more about meaning and purpose. Yeah. So what is my true meaning and what is my purpose on this earth? Yeah. And sort of like, and when he kind of explained it, I absolutely got where it was. And then I kind of saw as well where the clash was between sort of like who my business person partner was, because we were in different parts of the day. He's in the morning, I'm in the afternoon. Yeah. And there's nothing, and his truth is his truth, and there's nothing wrong with that because it's true, yeah. And my truth is the truth, yeah. So it's kind of the right thing to be able to do. But what Wayne Dyer also talks about, and I believe this as well. So when I first had my changes, yeah, like people used to say to me the same, it's called you can only keep what you have by giving it away. Yeah, okay, it's about what you give. Yeah, you can only keep what you have by giving it away. And what Wayne Dyer talks about, because he was also a professor and doctor and all of this sort of stuff, yeah, is what happened was when he let go of the wants for more, yeah, he ended up getting far more than he ever needed. Yeah. But then what he did, he was quite a philanthropist. He kept on giving more stuff away. And the more stuff that he was giving away, the more wealth he increased, you know, and it's you know, and I have that same kind of belief because like people go, oh, you do really well, you do really. How do you get all this sort of stuff? And I'm like, I just kind of give, and then.
That actually leads quite nicely onto a segue, actually, because I was going to ask you, because I know that you spend a lot of time not just doing paid work, but you give a lot of your time up as well, don't you, on particular projects. So how do you must get asked all the time to be doing stuff. So how do you just do more of your speaking, or what kind of volunteer kind of giving work do you do? And how do you decide what to do? Because you must just have it be inundated with requests.
So if I've got time, well, to be honest with you, I've got a PA. That really helps. Yeah,
that's smart business sense, though.
Pardon?
That's smart business sense.
That is smart business sense. So what it is one thing I always give, yeah, is I'll speak to anybody, yeah. So I'll get lots and lots of requests where people just say, can I have a conversation? Yeah, and I'm never trying to sell them anything. I say, yeah, and then I kind of put them onto Jane, and then she kind of sorts out sort of like me having a 30-minute call with them and all that sort of stuff. It's quite funny actually, that sort of thing as well. And I don't hold any resentment because I'm not there to just waste energy. But I've had a few like professional speakers, yeah, who wanted to be professional speakers come to me for advice and support. So what I did is I freely give them that advice and support and everything like that. And then what's happened is I found out later on is that they start to block me on all social medias, and they don't engage with any of my content, and they're kind of doing well. And I'm like, what's that? And I think it's because you get these people to see everybody as competition, you know, but we're not in competition. There's enough for everybody. Do you know what I mean?
I believe that as well, totally.
Yeah. And some people say to me, so why do you keep giving your time then? I'll go, well, because I do. It's not going to stop me from doing that, you know, because that's something I always do. So I'm always happy to speak to anybody that's on a journey and give them tips, ideas, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also a trustee for two charities, okay? And two charities is my maximum that I can kind of do because it's another thing, it's a time, yeah? So, because it is kind of sort of like supporting the running of the business. A charity is pretty much like a business. But both of those are linked to sort of like what is my true passion. So one of them is, sorry, is for young people that offers diversionary activities. So diversionary activities is maybe taking somebody sailing, rock climbing, kayaking, or all that sort of stuff, just to give them experiences that they wouldn't usually get because they're born into a life of poverty and they don't get the same sort of stuff. Usually as well, lots of these young people as well, because of their environment, they're not doing well academically. So what these opportunities well get them to sort of like see their own other skills, the other skills that they got that sort of actually will support them better in life. Yeah. How many people use their GCSEs or blah, 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 you know? So, yeah, so I'll kind of do that one. And then the other charity is, so that's called SEHCO, SEHCO. And then the other one is a charity called Flying Solo. And Flying Solo is for care leavers, yeah, and so that is massively important to me. So care leavers, the care leavers charity is for once statutory responsibility ends. So if somebody's in care at the age of 21, the corporate parent disappears. If they're in education or got learning difficulties, they disappear at the age of 25. They're then left on their own, yeah, flying solo, yeah. But what happens is, say like if you've got children, yeah, is they may leave home at 21. Yeah, or 25. But then what happens is things might happen in their life in the future, yeah, and then they'll come back home and stay with mum and dad for a year, 2 years, whatever, like that, get them settled. Care leavers don't have this, yeah, they don't have that network and support there. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create and cultivate a wider network, yeah, where we all kind of support and nurture each other, yeah. The other thing as well, why this is really important to me is, and I always put these stats out there, is care leavers make up just 1% of the population of the UK, just 1%. They make up 40% of the young person's prison estate. And they make up 26% of the adult prison estate.
Wow.
So what we've got at the moment is we've got a care system where we see a vulnerability, so we safeguard them and put them into the care. They then respond negatively in their behaviour linked to their trauma. We then punish and criminalise the behaviour and then put them into another system. Yeah, so a lot of the stuff I do within Flying Solo is one about supporting them ones there as well, them the young people there, but also using sort of like whatever you want to call it, my presence to be able to kind of highlight the issue so that actually we can change it so we don't keep getting these young people going down that pathway.
Yeah, using your voice to and your experience and everything to kind of try and make some change.
Make some change, yeah.
That's awesome. So, I mean, obviously you've had a pretty interesting life, to say the least. I always learn something when I talk to you, Gethin. So,
what do you think of the beard, though? I've got a beard. What do you think?
It's great. It's a bit grey. There's a bit too much white in there.
Yeah, they call that. What do they call that? Somebody said it was a really quite good word the other day. It's kind of like wise, but not wise.
Distinguished.
Distinguished. That's the word.
You're like your George Clooney-esque without any hair. Anyway, okay, so what's next? What's happening next on the Gethin Jones horizon?
So going back to my old business partner, because I learnt loads from him as well, yeah, he's you know, phenomenal, yeah, is because when I set up the business, yeah, is how I kind of always explain it, yeah, is I was just good at what I do, like a painter and decorator is just good at what they do. Then what happens is you set up a business, yeah, because you want more time and you want more kind of money to do blah, blah, blah. And then what happens over a period of time is you got less time, you got less money because you don't know about being a businessman. And he kind of taught me a lot about how to kind of become a businessman, but also about having a goal at what the end of it is like. So at the moment is I'm looking at creating, getting 3 central contracts from the Ministry of Justice. So that'll be working across prisons and probation. which will give me an opportunity to open 3 offices across the UK, one south, one in the Midlands, one in the north of the country. And then I can also recruit and develop other people that can deliver what it is that I deliver. They would be people that have got an experience like mine, or they might be great prison officers, support workers, social workers, just other people that really understand that cohort. I'm also looking at creating a personal development program which supports change as well, which is linked to my book. And then I'll be training up other people to facilitate that as well. So what my long-term plan is, within the next 3 to 5 years, what I plan to be able to do is have a business that works without me. Okay, so it's a business that works without me. Okay, so what it is, I'll have all of these processes, systems. There'll be different managers within managing each of the offices that will be taking care of all of the contracts, the delivery, blah, blah, blah. Then what that's going to do is that's going to give me a financial freedom. Yeah, because that's what I'm looking for, is the financial freedom so that I can actually better use my time where I feel that it's needed most. So what I want to be able to do is I want to get more involved more in the political arena in relation to policy, strategy and legislation in relation to the care system and the criminal justice system. And I'll just kind of tell you on this quick story as well. And
so Gethin Jones MP before long, is it?
I'm not going to be an MP. No, I won't be an MP, but I'll be sort of like, the go-to person to be able to influence what kind of happens. I don't want to be an MP.
So you're going to lobby government, basically?
I'll be lobbying government. Yeah, and I'll tell you I heard this story many years ago, yeah, because you get lots of people from my background, yeah, and what they do is they're always waving banners, yeah, this is not right, this is not right. At work, yeah. So what happened? There was an American Indian many, many years ago, yeah. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to make this land sacred, yeah, for his tribe. But what he knew was that he couldn't beat the white man because of the gun and everything else like that. So what he did was he kind of went off and started to get himself educated, yeah. And he got himself educated so that he got himself into university. Then once he'd kind of gone through university and he studied politics and everything like that as well, he then got himself into the Senate. And then whilst he was in the Senate, he then put through legislation to make this land sacred to his tribe, and it got the go. Yeah. So that moral of that story is, if you truly want to affect and make change, you need to get in there with it. Yeah. So I'll get lots of my friends that go, yeah, but you sold out like death. And I'll say, yeah, look, but listen to this. When you see me in my nice 3-piece suit with my tie on, always remember that underneath is an anarchist T-shirt.
It's good advice, though. I mean, that is good advice, that you can't just keep kind of shouting. It's not about, I think we see it all the time at the moment, don't we? It's about who shouts the loudest, but nobody is actually offering practical solutions to how we're actually going to solve problems, because people seem to think they haven't got any responsibility for coming up with the solutions. So I think possibly if our government worked a little bit more in that way, we might not be in quite the state that we're in today.
Because it's funny, yeah, so all governments talk to us, yeah, this is businesses, public sector, they always talk about collaboration. Yeah. When do they collaborate? They just scream at each other. Yeah. There's no collaboration. There's no cross-party politics. But yeah, I'll kind of give you a little shout out. I do this with teams as well. And link to this. So I always say this thing. No, when they say there's no I in team. Yeah. But I'll say, but there's 3 I's in personal responsibility. And what is it that you're going to do to make this team better? Yeah, that's what I always do with teams. And when I talk to sort of like men or staff or anything like that, and and they're always doing the finger pointing, yeah, it's that blaming, shouting, blaming, yeah. I say always remember when you're pointing the finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you, yeah. They're the 3 I's, yeah. So what is it I can do and take personal responsibility on to make this different? Yeah.
Do you know what? I had a teacher at school that used to say that when you point the finger, there's 3 pointing back at me. But I never thought of it in terms of this, the eyes of, I and that I and personal responsibility. I think that's really, really good point, actually. So, I mean, and the thing is, I think, you're right. When people sort of see that you're running a business and, social media always makes people think that things are way more, everything is fabulous. Everything is, look at Gethin. He's all over the place. He's at number 10. He's at House of the Parliament. But they haven't seen the years from age 11 up to 2006 or whatever. And they haven't seen all the hard graft that you've put in over the last few years either, have they?
No. Just to let you know, I've got 5 seconds left on 5% left on my battery.
Okay, all right then.
Let me just say this quickly. so unmanageable. Yes, I think we had this conversation before. You get it loads of times, where people will go to a business owner that's kind of got millions and millions already successful. They go, "Oh, they're so lucky. They're so lucky." Yeah, but what they don't see is the 15, 16-hour days that they've been doing, for the last 3 to 5 years, yeah? So I always say with business, and then we talk about a thing called compounding, and Les Brown talks about this. Les Brown is an amazing motivational speaker, and he talks about the story of the bamboo, yeah? So with the bamboo plant, when you plant the seed, and you put it into the ground, it takes 5 years, for that to come through the ground, But you have to get up every single day and water that plant for 5 years, So you're getting up every day, and you're watering that plant that nobody else is seeing. And then 5 years later, when it pops its head through, it can grow 20 meters in a couple of weeks. And then people are coming around going, "Wow, you've got such great bamboo," And you think, yes, because I've just watered it for the last 5 years, whilst you was lying in your bed drinking your coffee. Yeah. So get out there, plant your seeds and start watering it.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's probably, as you've got 5% left on your phone, and that's probably like a good place to end then, really, isn't it? And I know that you want to go off paddleboarding, so I think that that's probably a good place to end.
Well, I've really enjoyed doing these podcasts, and I hope I'll get to do many more in the future.
Tune in next week where we'll have more inspirational stories talking about moving your business beyond what it is and moving it more towards what you're in business for, what's important, and doing good and changing the way things should be done.